So it is 6:03. I'm going to call the WSESD board meeting to order. Meeting of the WSESD will come to order. This meeting is a hybrid meeting, which means that some or all of the public body is meeting remotely, and some are meeting physically in a previously noticed location where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. Please note that while we will strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation. Therefore, it is important to note that the open meeting law only ensures the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending at the designated physical location as posted in the notice and agenda. If a member of the public or of the public body has technical difficulties accessing this meeting remotely, please alert us by email. In the event of a technical difficulty that cannot be resolved, we may continue the meeting if necessary to time and place certain. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting that are not unanimous are done by roll call vote in accordance with the law. Okay, so, Deborah, did you?
So I'd like to amend today's agenda, and under new business, letter H as in Harrow, it says climate survey report, Chris Overtree proposal. We're going to take that off today and look at it later this summer.
So you would like to postpone
I'd like to postpone that. Does that have to be a motion?
Are there any other, well, it sounds like you are you making a motion to amend the agenda to postpone that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, are there any other changes that you were asking for this agenda?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So Deborah has made a motion to amend the agenda to postpone the, under new business, the
letter H.
Letter H. All those, is there any discussion? All those in favor of postponing this item, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. So then we will move on to, we do have 4 very quick executive sessions that we need to do. They're all on student matters. They are essentially just procedural, informing the board of these. And Mark will be invited into each of them, and they all have a bearing on things further on in the agenda, so we need to get those attempted right now, but they shouldn't be too long. So, is there a motion to go into executive session under 1 VSA 313A7 student matters, the academic records or suspension or discipline of students? So moved. All those in favor of going into executive session, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, so we will go into executive session at 6:07 for these 4 student matters, and we are inviting Mark in for each of them. Okay, so we are back from executive session at 6:26. Okay, and we are on to student matters. 5 to 10 minutes. Are there any students? I don't see any students here, but are there any students in Zoom?
They're eating up their dinner.
Okay, well.
And are they coming?
They're already here, and they left to go heat up their dinner.
We'll give them an opportunity when they get back. So, is there anyone in Zoom who would need students? Okay. I usually give 3 go-rounds, so 1 more go-round for student matters. Okay, we will move on to the administrative report and hand it over to Mark, please.
Okay. So tonight's report is essentially a presentation reflecting on the school year and highlighting some successes throughout the year, as well as identifying challenges that we still have in thinking about planning for next year and future years. In August, I started the school year sharing our action plan. Throughout the school year, we've delivered a number of presentations which have been specific elements from our action plan. And then tonight is kind of a overall recap of some of the major goals that we've established and where we've come from that first meeting to now our final presentation of this school year. So tonight, a combination of Whitney, Bryn, and Paul will lead us through about 18 or so slides, giving an overview of our action plan and development this year. Whatever you're more comfortable with. Go.
Everybody see that okay?
So Whitney is taking on the EST portion. Bryn will focus on the MLSS. And then Paul will highlight continuous improvement. So we'll turn things over to Whitney to get us started.
Great, thank you, Mark. So we're going to talk a little bit about EST, MLSS, and then our CIP tonight. So all the acronyms, very exciting. So we're going to start off looking at our EST systems. Go ahead.
There we go. That one?
Yeah, so that lays out just some visuals to go with the three systems that we are going to talk about tonight. And these are pretty important pillars of our work and our goals that we've had this year. I guess one way that you could think about it is EST is really a piece of our bigger MLSS system with our, it's a layer of support that kids can access. And then the MLSS work that we do really drives our continuous improvement plan and what that looks like over the course of a year. Excellent. So one thing that we, last year, the administrative team spent a lot of time really developing common forms and common language and common procedures at the administrative level around EST and what that looks like. And this year the goal was really around implementation. And let's get this into our schools and using common forms and procedures. And so one piece of that work was Becky Peloso, who is a wonderful collaborator of mine, who's not here tonight, but is a special educator and works on our West evaluation team. She and I started off the year meeting with the EST coordinators at each school, and Bryn participated in that work as well. And the goal around that was just to have some dialogue and some space for these people that hold really important roles at each of their school sites, but there's usually only, one of them. And so it's really nice to give them a chance to gather so that we know that we are implementing something with some consistency and that a place to share ideas. And that was really helpful for the EST coordinators just to have some time to share practices and what was working well for them at each of their schools. So that was one thing that we did this year, every other month. Moving forward next year, our goal is to actually have that be a monthly meeting, so to add a little bit more support than we offer this year. Another thing that we implemented, Bryn at the beginning of the year made these beautiful EST tracking sheets for each of the EST coordinators to use as just an easy way to keep data on where students are at. And we'll talk about that more in just a second. And then Becky and I just offered ongoing implementation consultation for the EST coordinators. So as questions came up, as they were, teams were thinking about resources and supports and how to connect students with those and problem solving around that, we offered to attend either pre-EST meetings that were more school-based or EST meetings where, typically a family is invited and just as another set of eyes on the procedure to offer advice and support in that way as well. So those were kind of some of the layers of support that were built into EST this year. So at those meetings, these are just some of the, a smattering of some of the topics that we covered over the course of the year. We talked a lot about goal writing and really thinking about what's the most important piece of an educational support team plan for a kid, and really using the research that we know about goal writing, and that doesn't need to be like a fully SMART goal necessarily, but it does need to be specific and it does need to be measurable so that we know what we're targeting and that we can measure whether or not our kids are achieving that. And so we worked a lot with EST coordinators, some of whom really don't have lots of experience in writing specific measurable goals for kids. Some people are counselors and hold different hats in a building, but don't necessarily have lots of specific training on this type of plan writing. And so that's something that Becky and I have done quite a bit of, and so we're able to offer some resources and support around goal writing to make sure that we're tracking what our kids are doing. We're able to measure whether or not our plans are working. So that was something that we did. We also rolled out OT and PT, so occupational and physical therapy resource binders. If you know anything about school districts, usually those people are very hard to get access to because there's only one of each of them. So as a way to just increase access to that kind of expertise, those people actually put together some binders, and it went from gross motor to fine motor, and we're organized in that way so that if a student was struggling with how to hold a pencil, then there was a section to go to, and there was research-based, evidence-based practices and intervention ideas that were quick and easy. There were also, one-pagers on just great things that would, could be given to a PE teacher so that they could think about how to integrate, more intentionally some of that gross motor movement for kids. So that we gave to EST coordinators as well, to just use as those concerns came up for kids, which they really certainly have. This leads directly into the concerns around writing that we've talked about quite a bit this year, in that during the pandemic, kids had less movement in general and more time on screens. So that was a piece that we felt was important. We also looked at some data sheets that Paul organized for all of us, which gives a really nice quick snapshot of just a lot of information about a kid, including their social emotional learning, academic attendance data, and kind of has that housed in one place. And so showing EST coordinators that tool and helping them use that. Analysis of our new forms. So we had people use the forms and fill out the plans and then take out names and make them anonymous and then come back together and analyze, okay, how are you writing your plans? What does this look like? Oh, I like the way you wrote that. The goal or the way that you captured your minutes, as a way to just give them some exposure to what that actually looks like in practice at different schools. And then just most recently, we did some transition planning to make sure that we are having consistency and that no EST plans are getting dropped or falling through the cracks. So we transitioned our pre-K students to our kindergarten sites and did the same for our 6th to 7th graders and 8th to 9th. And this is just an example of the EST tracking sheet for next year that is not complete, but I know it's small print, but it's on your slides as well. But just to get an idea of what that data is looking like that we're capturing when it's raw data for kids. And then in the student name section here, the actual plan is linked for each child. So the EST coordinator, obviously, this is confidential information, but the EST coordinator would have access to this sheet so that they'd be able to easily access and see what EST plans are looking like for students at their school. And then next slide, please. This is kind of a roll-up of that data that we have. Schools can see this at their individual sites based on that tracking sheet that we just showed, and then this actually shows everything across the district. So students that are on ESTs at different grade levels, so we can see, there's big chunks of 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st graders. And then also the reason for the EST, the primary reason, there's also a space for a secondary reason, but the primary reason we can see most often they're used for academic needs. There's also a good chunk of behavioral needs, but also, things come up such as attendance for students. If that's a concern, then that could be a reason for an EST plan, or speech concerns that could start as an EST plan as well. And then this is looking at, so what happened at the end of the year? This student has had the experience of being on the EST plan for the year. In June, we asked EST coordinators to say, where did all of your plans end at the end of the year? And so you can see right here, most, for this year, 52.6% of students are continuing on EST plans. Ideally, that might be a little bit less. Ideally, maybe we would have more students who are graduating from their EST plans, right? And so this is a place to look at, like, how can we use this data to grow and to improve our practices in the future. You can see 9% of students were referred for IEPs. So this is just a helpful way for us to see, are our systems working? How long are students staying on EST plans? Ideally, they're on an EST plan, they're able to meet their goals, and they're able to be exited from that plan. Sometimes they might be moved to a 504, or sometimes an evaluation might be initiated for a student, and then some other kids transferred or moved to middle school. But this gives us a nice snapshot, and it will be really helpful next year to look at, okay, how can we compare this? There's definitely some room, we're still in the growing and gaining in consistency phase with this. Some schools are still working at the end of the year to try to get all this data in, so this is not a complete, total, accurate representation of all schools, but they are working to get that in by the end of this week. So we should, have that data, but that's something that we still need to work on, is having all schools making sure that they're using this over the course of the year as a tool for themselves. And then this also doesn't represent the processes at UHS and what that looks like, and how it looks a little bit different than at the elementary and middle schools. And so those are areas that we know we need to continue thinking about next year. All right. Yeah. Do you have a question?
Maybe you mentioned it and I missed it, but do you communicate with the parents or the guardians about the plan? How often do you do it?
Yeah, not me specifically, because I'm not an EST coordinator, but all the EST coordinators invite the families, and usually what they'll do at the beginning of the year is any active EST plan, they'll meet at the beginning of the year in the first month or so of school. They'll review the existing EST plan and then set some specific measurable goals with the family, looking at benchmark data, so where are they at in whatever area that we're concerned about. And then typically, if it's an active EST plan and we do have some concerns, they'll look at meeting every 6 weeks or so, depending on the student and,
Great.
the individual needs.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Whitney.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sean.
I was just wondering how many years this has been implemented in the district.
EST has been around for a long time, and I think what you're seeing is our attempt to make it as robust as it can possibly be. And I think what we've seen is it's worked really well in different pockets, or this maybe in its current iteration has been in existence in different pockets at different schools, but trying to make sure that all students have, across our district, have access to a similar system has really been the work that we're moving towards in the last couple of years.
So last year was really identifying the expectation, the benchmark around a really good best practice EST process. And then this year, the focus has been on transitioning from that to integration, to how it works on the fly in the school year. So next year will be refinement of that, of what we learned from this year.
So could I have one quick question? I was just wondering about the unification of the district and how this ties in. It must be much easier to implement such a program in a united district.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect. It's very helpful.
I appreciate that it looks like you are already preparing for next year. So I imagine that having students some idea of where they are at the end of the year, then you're kind of like ready to get going right at the beginning of next year. So I appreciate that that's sort of in place.
The other thing to say is that with the implementation of Act 173, the importance of ESTs has really popped up, because it's gonna be one of the main drivers for how we're providing support to students in a realm of Act 173 where, IEPs are different.
May I ask a question about, could you speak just a little bit more to the high school? And it's really great to see the data for the lower grades. What's happening now? I mean, it might not be the same, you might be working on it, but can you speak to what's the system now?
I can speak to that a little bit, just from some great work that I've done with representatives at the high school, and I'm sure administration here would want to chime in as well. I met a lot at the beginning of the year with Nancy Johnston, who's a school improvement coordinator here. Do I have that title correct?
Yes.
Yep. Who was really looking at these district-wide EST processes that were developed last year and looking at them and saying, this is a really different structure in the high school where we don't have this like core third grade team and a student is touching many adults in the building throughout the day. And so Nancy did a very deep analysis of what had been the process here at the high school, gathering input and looking at what the records review process was, I think meeting with counselors to talk about their experience with the EST plans, to work around kind of at a more base place of like, let's get an idea of the current state and what's working and what are areas for refinement. So that was happening. At a similar junction, there's been an Act 173 committee, an MLSS committee that has formed here at the high school that's doing absolutely phenomenal work. Like, it is such a ground up driving of change and culture shift here. And so that committee has really, what I've observed is that committee has really taken on that work and saying, okay, so how can we refine what has been happening to really build on the system? So the high school has really been in a more like building systems mode this year, especially as there's been increased co-teaching, so it's not like I'm pulling a kid out to get their math services, it's a special educator in the classroom with the core teacher, same thing with academic support, to really build those layers of support. And through that process that's happening, and they're actually working over the summer as well to work on this, that clear system with a similar data reporting mechanism will be developed for next year.
Thank you.
Did I miss anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think Nancy did so much with just updating a lot of the forms that would work in an elementary school setting where there's one classroom teacher and there's one counselor, but like Bryn said, the model looks very much different at the high school. And so our EST coordinator that we put in place this year, their role was more of a data collection because you're kind of reaching in all these different areas. And then the counselor and the house administrator and teacher involvement and family involvement creates these EST plans. So yeah, it was definitely a shift, especially with the brand new admin team of creating a new process, but it's gone really well, and I don't want to get ahead of the presentation, but definitely it's been a collaboration with the MLSS team.
I think that's a good bridge too to talk about, well, I'm gonna jump even to Paul's section, but I think what we're talking about here is really a continuous improvement process. Because it's never, our continuous improvement plan, our action plan is never done. It's a work in progress that's being informed by like, okay, so we'll try this thing out and then we'll get feedback and then we'll collect some data and how is it going? And actually we need to refine this piece and then let's measure it again. So that's really the work that we're doing here with continuous improvement. Before I jump into MLSS, I'm reminding myself to make sure on behalf of schools that we say thank you to the boards for the delicious treats that you shared in all of our buildings and in central office. There was such gratitude for that, so thank you for that.
Thank you very much. You jumped ahead of us, but we really appreciate that that was helpful.
Yeah, it's great. So aligned with EST, here's another acronym that we are really embracing here in WSESU is MLSS, so multi-layered systems of support. If you go on the Vermont AOE website, you might see this as multi-tiered systems of support, MTSS. MLSS and MTSS are kind of used synonymously. But when you think of tiers, or at least I do, I'm picturing like that wedding cake and there's these distinct, pieces that you would have. when we think about this as more layers, I'm thinking of it more like a warm summer night and I have a layer of a sheet when I go to bed. But then it gets a little chillier, so I might have like a light blanket. And then I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm really cold and I've got another layer, and then my cat comes and sleeps on top of me too. So it's like additional layers that are layered on based on the support that I might need. And then extending that metaphor to students that we're working with. So kind of this purple box over here is thinking about universal instruction that everyone has access to. And we're working really hard to make sure that every child is approaching and has access and is with their peers for universal instruction whenever possible. Some kids might need a little more, and so layer 2 might be some differentiation that's happening in the classroom. So I'm still in core math classroom, but maybe I have some manipulatives to use, or maybe the numbers are changed slightly for my work, or maybe I have an extension of what I was initially given. Another layer might be, layer 3, that in addition to my core math class, I have some time outside of class working with an academic support or a title teacher, working on maybe some sub-skills that are tripping me up or getting me tangled. And then a final layer might be for some students, because of detailed testing or diagnosis, we know they really need more intensity. And so in addition to the layers we discussed, they would get even more intensity in terms of the intervention to hopefully support. So multi is just that we have more than one option to support our students. I was giving an example here of intervention, but we might do the same thing for enrichment or social emotional skills. They're layered, so it's not like, well, you're gonna miss math class and get this instead. It's what else can we layer on for students. And full disclosure, that's really tricky with having a set number of hours in the school day. So that's something that we have to do a lot of creative thinking about. The idea with systems is that it's not just, well, I'm doing this and Whitney's doing this and over here somebody else is doing this, but how can we create systems and maximize our success? And then the idea of support is that we provide that support when it's needed, and then we take away the scaffold when it's not. So it's not like you get the support and now hopefully you have it forever in life. If you need it, certainly, but the idea is to support kids in getting what they need so that eventually they don't need it anymore. I busted my knee a few years ago. I had to have crutches and a knee brace, and I used that support while I needed it, and then as I healed, I could take those supports away because I was ready. So this layers really nicely with the idea and the tenets of Act 173. And this is right from the AOE in Vermont. And I'm sure you've heard a lot about Act 173, special and rule changes. The idea here are there's kind of 4 main pillars that set up the foundation or the components of success for our MLSS system. And so Whitney talked about really robust educational support teams that meet kids' needs. We need a really good local comprehensive assessment system so we have data about what students need and we can respond to that and we can see our growth and evaluate where we are growing and also where we are not yet. Making sure we have really coordinated curriculum that's research-based and evidence-based, and a lot of work has happened to coordinate our curriculum across the district this year. So if the student moves from Dummerston to Green Street, they're getting the same curriculum. It's an easy transfer. And then also this idea of needs-based professional development. What do our teachers need now? What do our parents need now? What do our school staff need now in order to respond to the needs in their classroom? I think a great example of that is in March, we brought in a phenomenal trainer who trained all teachers about executive functioning to really support students' executive functioning success in the classroom so they could access academic standards. So based on these pillars, then we have best practices that are aligned with MLSS. And I think I spoke to most of these, but the idea that our core instruction is going to meet the needs of most students. And then we can add on additional layers as needed. We want to make sure that our most highly trained teachers are providing the instruction whenever possible, especially for the specialized layers that students might need. We want to have a systems-wide approach to this, not just for academics, but also for behavior. And then really targeting our specialized supports for the most intensive needs. And that sometimes might be students who have IEP needs, and it might also be students who do not have an IEP, but are showing a need in an area for some specialized support. And the idea with Act 173 is that we evaluate the needs in front of us and identify what groupings and what needs can best be met at any given time. So I alluded to this a little bit before. We are developing a district-wide Act 173 steering committee, so there will be representatives from each school, similar to the process Whitney described with the EST coordinators. I think similar to our diversity equity committee as well, where we have a district-wide committee that then goes and replicates or guides some of that work in the schools. So here are some of our goals for next year, that everyone's clear on the theory of action and the best practices, and that information is shared widely at the school sites. We will be developing some centralized resources for teachers to meet these goals. And we will also have guidance and sharing best practice, and also sharing challenges that are popping up in the buildings so we can support each other throughout the year next year. So we do have reps from everyone. We have opportunities for training for those folks later in the summer and then into the fall, and we'll be meeting regularly throughout the year next year. So we're excited to share with you as that unfolds. Oh, I'm still talking. Don't read this, but just FYI, to start laying the groundwork for this, we gave a self-assessment survey to each school in our district. And so teams of teachers are looking at this self-assessment survey to really identify where are we now. And the goal is not necessarily to have great marks right away, although if that's true, that's great. It's really to identify, like, where am I at right now and what do I need to do next? And if you'll advance, Paul, there were 8 areas in the survey. There's still a couple schools that are taking this. It will be done before the end of the school year. But these were the 8 sections of that survey, and so we're already getting some data about areas that were relatively high. For example, our screening processes, our benchmark data processes, and areas where we have some progress to make, like progress monitoring, so looking more frequently at how kids are responding to the layers of instruction that we're giving, and also fidelity and evaluation of our programs. Okay, so we're saying we're doing this new literacy program. To what extent is that actually being implemented? So we're getting some more of that data in. We'll roll it up to district averages to help with our continuous improvement plan. And then each school will own their own data, of course, to help guide specific action steps that they'll do in their school buildings. That's it. Any questions about MLSS?
I have a question about, so what, in your evaluative process, is there any moment when you reach out to families with kids who have IEPs, 504s, or in the EST process to get feedback that's specific to them, not just climate, but really focused kind of how is this working for you kind of feedback?
Yeah, Ruby, I think that needs to be embedded in everything that we're doing. I think the more stakeholders that we can involve in these processes as we're laying the groundwork for this work is really valuable feedback. And so, as Whitney was speaking, EST meetings are an invitation for family feedback and to be a part of that process. Ideally, IEP meetings are opportunities for co-creation of goals with students and families and teachers. In terms of the MLSS systems, I think that will be something that we'll really look at with the coordination team next year to think about how can we engage our stakeholders at our individual sites to give feedback on those plans and help inform them.
And another place for that is at parent conferences. Mm-hmm. That's where, part of a parent conference is going to be discussion about what are the layers of support that are being provided. Mm-hmm. And, here's what we're seeing, what are you seeing now? Mm-hmm. That sort of thing.
I'm interested in a key part of this is professional development. So you have new hires coming in, you have teachers who change schools. How do you give them the professional development they need without being redundant for some teachers?
Yeah, I think that's also a multi-layered system of support, to be honest. I think it's looking at what are district-wide needs that are coming up in our data. For example, the executive functioning, whether I'm a brand new teacher or a veteran teacher, this could be a benefit to me right now in my classroom. We also try to differentiate the new hire orientation for teachers who are brand new to teaching versus veteran teachers who are moving into the district to offer different strands of workshops and trainings related to their level of experience. We also differentiate that in terms of the mentor program that we presented to the SU board a month or so ago in terms of different levels of mentorship for folks. I think another layer of that too is working with building leaders and mentors to identify use of personal professional development funds that are so generous in our district to be able to target courses and trainings.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts.
Coaching is another integral part of that too, which is sometimes self-selected by the teacher, and we're going to promote that heavily in our new higher orientation this year. And then sometimes coaching can be recommended by a mentor teacher or by a team member or by a building administrator as well as a support for a teacher.
It's a great question, Tim, and a major challenge, and something that we're always looking at ways to evaluate our systems and build upon them so that we are aware of that and supporting our new teachers while invigorating our more seasoned teachers and giving them opportunities to distribute their leadership and knowledge.
I think a big hope for the district-wide MLSS steering committee next year will be to have voices from each individual school at the table to help guide that process. Because I think the needs are differentiated at each of our buildings, and so having that collaboration and partnership will also be an integral piece of guiding professional development in the district.
Okay, part 3. So, as Brent noted, the EST and MLSS pieces that you just saw are also embedded in our continuous improvement plan. So what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about sort of long-term, what's the long-term outcome that's driving all of the work, what are some, and then talk about the process itself of running a continuous improvement plan, developing a continuous improvement plan, and how to say that, continuing to improve the continuous improvement plan, put it that way. The process is really, and we've talked about this before, looking at data, looking at our current continuous improvement plan, reflecting on what the needs are, what we need for the next coming year, what we've accomplished in the prior year, and then synthesis, identification of goals for the following year. So first, however, some of you may not be aware, the Agency of Education, the state of Vermont, has identified what would be the portrait of a graduate in Vermont. And these are the areas: learner agency, global citizenship, academic proficiency, well-being, critical thinking and problem solving, and communication. And anybody that's been in on the proficiency-based graduation requirements, proficiency-based learning, these are those categories. So this is the end point, and you can simply look up Vermont Portrait of a Graduate. There's a great description, there's more detail about what these indicators mean. But this is one of the sort of long-term endpoints that we see as part of our development process. This is sort of a summary of the current continuous improvement plan. The state requires that we have a safe and healthy schools and an academic achievement goal. We also have a student SEL, mental health and well-being goal. Recall that, I think we've talked about this before, this continuous improvement plan really comes out of what was the recovery plan in response to the pandemic. And the goals that were identified in that recovery plan are, you're seeing evidence of them here as we developed the plan last year, and you will see evidence of them in the continuous improvement plan going forward. The needs that have been identified are these needs that we've identified prior. It's not like we, and that's really the process of continuous improvement. It's not like we say, oh, look at the data, here's a goal, here are the action steps, problem solved, new problem. The problems that we're working on are long-term problems that we really have to dig in and spend a lot of time and a lot of effort, and maybe try a bunch of different things in order to really get at those problems. So, safe and healthy schools, it's academic achievement, student, social emotional learning, mental health and well-being. A goal that we identified was increase the number of students who report a positive perception of the overall social and learning climate of the school. We understand there was an impact from the pandemic. Student engagement, students' sense of a positive perception of overall school and climate took some hits, and we need to work on that. Here are the steps. Professional development in the CASEL framework and social emotional learning, expanded dissemination and discussion of climate survey results, including more student feedback. That is some of the work that we did this year and that we reported to the board in prior sessions. For the academics, achievement participation rates for students on IEPs in the 80% or more least restrictive environment category will increase. We identified that as a goal. Work was done. Brent talked about some of the inclusion work that we've seen. Work was done on that, and I'll give you a heads up, that indicator showed some real growth. We aren't as far as we need to be, but it did show some real growth as a result of work that we did this year. Gap in achievement performance of students in underserved populations will decrease. We are still working on that issue. We don't have the most recent large-scale assessment results, but we know that this is a really pernicious problem and it really takes a lot of effort to work on. It's something we're hopefully seeing some growth on, but it still has lots more work to do. And then the number of students absent 15 days or more will decrease. We are still struggling with that one. Fair, just own it up. We are still struggling with that issue. We have a lot of students who have disengaged and are not showing up at the rate we would want them to. That's definitely going to be a piece of work for next year. Here are I'm not going to read all of these. Here are some of the steps that we've taken: instructional coaching, additional coaching cycle, professional development, diversity equity coach, that hire was made, a curriculum diversity audit, that audit was performed by the equity coach, continued summer engagement programming. We're once again running what's going to be just a crackerjack summer program, thanks to Bryn's organizing, Chris is organizing, a bunch of folks putting that together. It's going to be a great program. Continued summary, we did that one. Develop a toolbox of ESD and PSS forms and best practices. That's what you just heard about. So these action steps are being taken or were taken to improve, to work on these goals. And then continue use of social workers, focus on getting students reacclimated to school, increase use of outdoor learning, continue to expand summer learning. Those are also things that we've been working on, okay? And then our measures, student climate surveys, the LSAD, the least restrictive environment data. This should now say VTCAP, because that's the new one that the window closed on Friday. Attendance data, student climate survey data, and administered twice a year. So that's the current plan. And then at the most recent leadership meeting, we looked at the data update, and the data, there's sort of a set of data that is continuously updated. So we've got the climate survey data, we've got parent survey data, we will have the new VTCAP data when it comes out. That gets updated. We had a look at those data and identified the sections of the data to look at, identified potential problems and goals that we wanted to set for the following year. So those are the goals that we've identified. Oh, I think that's right. Yes, so next steps. We are going to review the large-scale goals at the admin board retreat coming up, and also at our admin meeting later on in the summer. Identify specific action steps in both locations. Review the MLS data, refine site-based action steps. So we'll have a district-level CIP. Individual schools, based on that, will develop their own specifics of that CIP, and then start a new cycle with school starting in the fall. School-based and district work on CIP goals, more work on EST, more work on MLSS as we go into the next cycle of work. I think that's it. Overarching goal, collaboration for student achievement. And that's it. What are your questions? Okay.
Okay, the underserved populations.
Yes.
We know that they, as well as the majority of students, do better with the diversified workforce. I didn't see that in the plan, that you're joining the board to diversify the workforce in a very serious, systematic, planned way.
So, not everything that we do is represented in the continuous improvement plan. Not every piece of data that we have shows up as a highlighted piece of data in the continuous improvement plan. It's not to say that we aren't doing that work. Yeah. It's just we've got to summarize what are the big movers that are going to show up. And it may be that in the continuous improvement plan for the coming year, that strategy, and I think we would probably need to have more specifics about that strategy, might be one of the strategies that we include in the next cycle.
Okay, I think that the board is going to do its best to just keep it top of the mind. It's because it's important.
I'd like to reiterate what Tim just said, that it's an important issue for us at this point. So it may be something that we might want to see some analysis in the future. I have a question about the board retreat coming up, June 26th. So you mentioned that we're gonna be looking at, you know, a lot of this information. Are you going to provide us with the information that we need before the retreat? Is there something that we should be doing as board members to prepare for the retreat from your point of view?
You'll certainly get information, sort of copies of the plan. I'm sort of thinking you already may have that, but yes, we can put together a package for you.
Okay.
And I think Tim and Deborah, and hopefully I have this correct in my mind as we're planning for that day. But part of the idea there is to take a look at the problems identified in the data. I think you mentioned one of them, Tim, as a potential problem, and look collectively at some of those problems to identify, like, okay, so let's do some analysis of what might be going on here, what might be contributing to this, and what are collective goals and strategies that we can look at together to, you know, both from the actions that the board takes and the role that you have governing our supervisory union and district, and also for the folks in the buildings, and how can we work in conjunction in that way to arrive at some you know, collaborative strategies. And I think part of that will be looking at the problems or practice that were identified there and sharing some data looks so we can dig into that process together.
Yeah, because this page about potential problems, I mean, we love the success story, but it's always the questions, it's always the digging in and chipping away and, oh, what didn't work? And that's what I'm seeing here. And
we want to be very transparent about that process that was done with the leadership team. Let's look at our data. There's
Thank
so
you.
many things to celebrate, and we don't want to ever lose that because that is the work that's happening. But also, let's look realistically what the problems are so we can start to tackle those together and prioritize. Because you can't do everything at once, we'll burn everybody out. But what can we choose as priority items to do deeply and well the first year and then build up the success?
yeah, because I'd like to sort of talk about some of the potential problems on this page. Not tonight, but just, it's interesting stuff. Yeah.
I would think that would be, you know, your best place to go in thinking about preparation for that board retreat is, you know, looking at that summary page.
Right.
Yeah, because that's really, you know, the outcome of a lot of data that we analyzed.
Right.
And looking at those.
Thank you.
I have a question. I thought that the portrait of a graduate was really interesting. It wasn't a document that I was familiar with, and I wondered if, as you're looking at the data and thinking about the work that you do, are you tracking back to those key points? And is there any way that we, as board members, as we're following the work, your reports, and what you're talking about, that we can track back to that? It feels like that's a really concrete way to stay student-centered, and I just wonder if you could speak to that.
I think when we think about like creating a board presentation kind of calendar agenda for next year, that's the type of thing to really keep in mind as we frame that out.
I think it's an interesting thing in education. You could go to any school or any school board meeting or any public meeting, and we each come with our own passions and takes on issues and challenges. And so we use that portrait of a graduate in our June administrative meeting to really look at and orient, do we agree that this is the goal that we are all working toward? Because it's so important to have that common goal to base our decisions and our work off of. And so that's why we wanted to share that here tonight as well. And I love that idea of like using those as kind of the big buckets under which we categorize our work.
So I'd like to thank Bryn, Whitney, and Paul for providing what I think is a terrific overview of the work completed this year and how we're using this as a springboard for next year. And I'm looking forward to the retreat, to starting that work with all of you.
Thank you all.
We do have some students here.
Yep.
If we can rearrange maybe the agenda.
Yep, I just wanted to, Deborah, did you want to speak to the?
Yeah, so just before we leave administrative report, Can we just confirm BUH graduation?
Friday, 6:30,
It is at 6:30 at night?
Yes.
and we're still up in the air of whether it will be outdoors or indoors at this point.
Checking the weather on an hourly basis.
I bet you are, yeah.
And it changes on an hourly basis.
We will be making that call, I mean, we will wait as long as we possibly can to make that call in hopes that it's gonna be 75 and sunny. But we'll make that call by noon on Friday, so people will know.
And then to whatever extent possible, you'll try and have, something for board members to squeeze in.
Yes.
Everybody's in.
So in the event, it's in the gym. Families, students will get 2 tickets, and then we will have an overflow in the air-conditioned auditorium with Brattleboro Community Television streaming it. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Kaya, you had, no?
You just answered my question.
I
I was
just-
gonna ask if it was gonna be streamed, if it was inside.
Okay, all right. And I have one more question under administrative report. Can you provide, Mark, an update on hiring a restorative justice coordinator?
I'd turn that over to Cassie and Hannah, actually.
Yeah, so we worked with Stacy at Central, and Mike Sostak, who, is retiring. He has offered to, be available next year for coaching and mentorship of the new position. We collaborated on making some updates to, the job description, and it was posted at the beginning of this week or last week. We do have some candidates, so we'll hopefully start interviews shortly to have that position filled.
June 9th,
Yes.
so it hasn't been up that long.
Okay.
Would that position be located in the high school but serving the whole district?
Currently, Mr. Sostak serves BAMS and BUHS. I would love it to be a resource to the entire district. I know Mike Sostak, has shared his knowledge with many other schools in the area, helping them create their own restorative programs. So, to any extent that individual was available to offer their services to the rest of the district, I would highly encourage that. But it is only one person, so I know that can be challenging.
If we utilized it the way we would like, it's full-time at both schools, honestly.
Yeah. It's never bored.
Bands and BUHS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's tons of issues that restorative would be appropriate for.
And it's not just like restorative in response to discipline issues, like we really, I think this year especially, want to be just a restorative community in general with restorative practices. And so that takes time and investment and teaching, and so it's, I think it shifted from maybe what was once just some student conflict or student staff conflict to how do we expand that throughout the school.
So it was posted, and we'll go through the hiring process when we feel like we have a group of candidates that we want to meet.
So this position is currently an SD position, not an SU position. I'm just confirming that?
Yes,
an
it's a
SD.
BUHS, it's a BUHS position.
All right,
Yes.
Yeah.
okay. And so currently you're looking to hire one person
Correct.
with the understanding that you probably need more than one person for the district. Possibly.
We're hiring one person, yes,
Okay,
replacing
yes, I
Mike,
read.
who's retiring at the end of the year.
I realize, I hear, yeah, okay. Thank you.
May I ask, and this might be a general question about all positions, I don't know, but is the BOHS Leadership Council, are they tapped at all in terms of your hiring process for this or any other positions, but particularly for this one?
Not really.
Not really historically. I mean, there was for example, there was a discussion when the band director was retiring about what that would look like. So, in the event that's a topic that the leadership council, wants to be involved in, like there's a parent on our leadership council that has a student very into the music program, and so that was, something that was meaningful to them. I think we're open to that. but our leadership council, we really talked about improving systems within the school, and so the hiring hasn't really been something that's come up.
So, we went past student matters, and we wanted to give you an opportunity to, if you had anything to share with the board or questions. We can come back if that's, if you.
Yeah, it's like food in my mouth.
Okay, we can come back. Okay. So, we can do the consent agenda and then we'll come back and then we will do all the student matters at that point.
Okay.
So, is there a motion to approve the clerk's report of May 23, 2023?
So moved.
Thank you, Kim. Is there any discussion?
The clerk's report, you mean the minutes?
Yes. Yes, thank you, Tim, for.
Okay. I don't want to make any amendments, but I just want to point out a few things that are important for the whole board to hear, I believe. I'm not an expert parliamentarian, but I've been looking into it. And for full boards as well as small boards, it's important that we get the motions right. And when a motion is made, this is a principle that we should understand. Once that motion is seconded or not, it's on the table for the full board. It's not my motion, it's not Deborah's motion. It's the board's motion. That's a concept that's important, I think. Secondly, if there's a friendly amendment to the motion, immediately the full board should vote on whether to accept that amendment or not. Third, and I've said this before, I just don't think it's helpful to attribute names to every permutation of the amendment made. I think that the minutes should reflect what the board decides on and not who says what. But the important thing is that the board understands that if anybody makes a motion, it's the board's motion.
Okay, I will try to keep that in mind because I am probably the offender that.
No, this is a common thing among chairs. It's they think that it's Mark's motion, but it's not. It's the board's motion.
Okay, thank you, Tim. So now that is there any other discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes of May 23, 2023, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. And so now we will do the finances. The warrants of May 8, 2023 in the amount of $1,150,085.82. May 15, 2023 in the amount of $78,051.33. May 22nd, 2023 in the amount of $275,994.24. May 30, 2023 in the amount of $260,030.03. May 5, 2023 in the amount of $913,146.68. Is there a motion to approve the warrants?
So moved.
Thank you, Deborah. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the warrants, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, moving to payrolls of April 7, 2023 in the amount of $1,408,847.04. May 19, 2023 in the amount of $1,778,053.14. June 2, 2023 in the amount of $1,516,758.81. Is there a motion to approve the payrolls?
So moved.
Thank you, Deborah. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the payrolls, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, thank you. We are done those, and did you have anything that you would like to?
Yeah.
So tonight is like basically my official last board meeting as a student representative, and I just wanted to take a couple minutes to say thank you for this opportunity. This position is new, and I think it's a really good step in the right direction for getting more student involvement in sort of an area where we don't see a lot of students. So I just wanted to thank you guys for that.
Well, I guess we can, that would be a good jump to, new business, let's see, which one?
Well, yeah, so we're looking to jump to new business. Letter C, student representatives. Specifically talking about Kaya Colby and Ben Berg. So I would just like to open this up to any comment. I'm so sorry, I was staring at one person. I didn't even realize I was yes.
I didn't have anything prepared.
All right.
But I will say this. When we first started the student advisory committee with the student representatives on the committee, shortly after that, Kaya and Ben are both very busy, but they would come to these meetings, and I remember Ben saying this. He said, I hate to miss these minutes. This is my best part of the week. And the feeling was so mutual. I'm sure for Deborah and myself, we laughed, we did hard work, we did serious business, and it wouldn't have been possible without the support of the administration and without the maturity and the perseverance and the intelligence and the kindness and the bravery of our two student representatives supported by the Student Advisory Committee. I was looking at Kaya and Ben's applications for when they applied. I won't read it, but but it's inspiring. They talk about improving the student climate and about alleviating the tension between different groups, and about connecting, having people listen to you. That's a common refrain. You wanted people to listen to you. I think that undoubtedly that's something that you guys achieved. The board listens to you gratefully, and I hope that you listen to us at times too. So Kaya and Ben, thank you from the bottom of our heart.
I would like to add my own comments, and this is for Kaya and Ben. You should be proud of who you are and proud of your multiple contributions to your community. Thank you for accepting positions as student representatives to the WSESD School Board during this past year. You have both demonstrated a strong moral center with your words and your actions. Due to your strength of character and your leadership skills, Cassie, as principal, and the admin team at BUHS delivered 3 hours of professional development in March. Administrators do not do that. Adults do not easily relinquish the podium to a bunch of kids. You were handed the microphone because you earned it, and you have proven true to that responsibility. I ask that you consider returning to this community, even as road leads on to road. Remember this place, the adults, and your peers of this time. Remember your strength as individuals and as a group. Remember the SRO task force and your presentation before this board. Remember to practice your values. Use your voice wisely, and may your actions affirm your message always. We wish you well as you journey to new friendships and new experiences. As you encounter what you do not know, relish that thrill. The questions are often more important than the answers. May you always question. I am honored to be part of the Student Advisory Committee. We worked hard unraveling tough issues and we laughed together. We wish you well, Benjamin Berg, in your final year of high school. And we wish you well, Kaya Colby, in your first year in college. Exciting times for both of you. Congratulations. I would like to present certificates to Kaya and Ben. So could you please stand, Kaya and Ben? So Ben, I don't know where you are, but I expect that you are listening to me and you are going to stand. I asked you to, so I can see you and I know what you're doing. Benjamin Berg and Kaya Colby, you have epitomized excellence. You have confirmed that students must have a voice on this board. Thank you for all that you have done for your community. The WSESD School Board appreciates Kaya Colby and Benjamin Berg for their year of service. Thank you. Wow,
Fancy paper.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Benjamin Berg.
Wherever you are.
Okay, so I think we can go back to, back to the fiscal report, right?
Okay, tough act to follow, but do the best we can. So we had a finance committee meeting before this meeting. Our agenda was to review the financial statements for the year to date through May. We talked a little bit about the legislative results relative to the funding formula for schools. We did an update on the capital projects and discussed a little bit about the framework around how we record all of our transactions as we communicate and publish reports and so on. So that was the substance of our meeting. It is a Zoom capture. It'll go into the minutes. I'm glad to elaborate if anyone has any questions, but we had a full attendance of our finance committee. And maybe just a very short recap. Fiscal status is favorable as we head into the year end on our $61,255,000 budget. And capital projects are moving forward as planned. Glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for anyone on Zoom with questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Frank. So we will move on to public comment on non-agenda items.
So, could I request that potentially we go to school rebranding first, as we do have another student here,
Oh, sure.
if that's okay?
Sure, we can do that. So that's jumping to unfinished business B. So we, I have offered 5 minutes to, for a member of the public to speak. Mr. Hermanson, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so you have 5 minutes to speak to the board in regards to this.
Sure. I'll just give you a brief introduction of myself. I'm a 2006 graduate. I graduated Norwich University as well, and I've been doing 10 years of military service. So I'd like to start off by saying thank you for giving me a moment to speak to you guys tonight about the possible rebrand. So the name Colonels is a historic part of the school. Union soldiers mustered in this area, and a Defenders of the Union monument stands on the eastern end of the school. The definition of itself is an officer of high rank, in particular in the U.S. Army, Air Force, and Marine Corps, an officer above a lieutenant colonel and below a brigadier general. An officer of the rank of lieutenant colonel has to have served 18 years at a minimum and have held the rank for 5 years before being considered for the rank of colonel. Although most do not see this rank until they have served 22 years. They are evaluated by a selected board of superior officers. Although eligibility to retire is the 20-year mark in the military, this means that a colonel has to go beyond retirement requirements most of the time. The name colonels instills a sense of identity and belonging as a member of the community. We come from diverse backgrounds, but come together as a school and a community and support each other for our common goals in the classroom and on the athletic field. Colonels come from diverse backgrounds from all over the country and potentially the world. The military allows those who come to the country seeking opportunity to become a United States citizen. The 1957 yearbook had the colonel insignia on the cover of it, which further ties it to the military. The 1st Vermont Infantry Regiment, which was a Civil War regiment, was led by a resident of Brattleboro, Colonel John W. Phelps. Colonel Phelps refused orders to have African Americans used as general laborers and insisted that they be able to defend the camp. He was reprimanded for his actions and put in his resignation, later had his commission reinstated by President Lincoln. Colonel Phelps was also declared an outlaw by the Confederate President Jefferson Davis in 1862 for organizing free slaves for the military service against their masters and citizens of the Confederacy. The name colonels pays homage to those who have been a part of this school and the community. It may very well be the last thing some of them have to hang on to. PFC Kyle Gilbert, who was killed in action, was a member of the football team prior to serving. Kelsey Wells, who died in a tragic car accident along with Kevin Squires. Kevin Squires was the one who proposed the idea of the V with the cross swords logo, which is used up until today. Charlie McLaughlin, who coached the football team and was a dedicated teacher prior to losing his battle to cancer, and Tommy Fennell, who dedicated his life to the Brattleboro Colonels. Lastly, from the article in 2004, the Brattleboro Reformer, a quote from Curtis Reed: "It was never the name, it was imagery. Mr. Reed was satisfied." Thank you for your time.
Thank you. If there's are there any students who would like to speak to the rebranding, or did you?
Well, I'll refer back to the process that was developed after a decision was made to eliminate the colonel. So we were charged with a task to develop a process to bring a recommendation to the board, which we have done and are prepared to share tonight. I'll do a quick review. A decision by the board was made in April. The beginning of May, myself, school leadership, worked on developing a process which included the week of May 8th, an email to the student body sharing some of the history, sharing the statute and the new policy that was approved by the board. Shortly thereafter, a Google form was sent out to the student body asking for ideas of a new mascot and the reasons why behind those ideas. Additionally, volunteers were recognized to serve on a committee to move this process forward, which consisted of students and staff. Applications for interested students were received on Friday the 12th. A review of mascot options was done through that committee the week of May 16th. A round of voting was conducted the week of May 22nd. At the conclusion of the voting process, it became very clear that out of the three choices, one of those options rose to the top. So we come here tonight with the proposal in the form of a resolution, which Eva Gould a student leader on that committee is prepared to read to the board.
Hi everyone, my name is Eva. I'm
Right
a
over
junior.
here.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sitting down. I was prepared to stand. I got gummy bears.
Could you have one?
Okay.
So my name's Eva. I'm a junior here at BHS. I currently play 2 varsity sports, and I'm also a member of multiple clubs and extracurriculars here at BHS. So anyone entering Brattleboro Union High School sees 4 words: community, relevance, respect, and responsibility. Though times may change, these 4 words remain as the core values of our school. Through our community, we are strong. In our academics, we find relevance. As members, we respect one another. Finally, we place value on our responsibilities within these walls and outward. At the heart of this committee's work has been the very delicate task of respecting traditions from the past while building upon a vision for the future. In fact, continuity and change are not only compatible, but should be anticipated in a rapidly changing society. The challenge for our community as we go forth is to respect both continuity and change. We have every confidence that the same student body that was sensitive to our changing demographics and had thoughtful and intelligent dialogue regarding historical references will uphold a deep respect and gratitude to those who were instrumental in building Brattleboro's proud traditions. It is our responsibility as a community to now model the same ability to respect our past while we stand shoulder to shoulder with our current student body in embracing their future. It has been a privilege to have worked as members of the new mascot selection committee. Our commitment to respecting all of the members of our school and larger community with respect and dignity makes us very proud to now present our recommendation to the school board. Whereas the new mascot committee recognizes the vital role of school spirit and respects the proud traditions forged by Brattleboro alumni. And whereas the board has an ongoing responsibility to continue to build our proud tradition with current and future students of Brattleboro. Whereas the new mascot selection committee was charged with considering a new and unifying mascot name for the student body. And whereas the committee developed an inclusive process made up of student representation from the classes of 2023 to 2026, students, staff, and administration, and considered the input of both the student body and larger community. Whereas bears are fiercely protective animals who have been known to walk upon our very campus, have powerful instincts, high intelligence, highly developed communication skills, and are well known for their self-confidence and strength, and therefore symbolize worthy characteristics for a mascot. And now, therefore, we, the new Brattleboro Mascot Oversight Committee of the Windham Southeast School District, do hereby recommend that the Board of School Directors officially adopt bears as our new school mascot and identifier for the purpose of enabling a unified and spirited school community.
Good job.
So I would like to thank Mr. Hermanson and Eva for coming and speaking to the board. I would also like to thank Mark for engaging the school community in the process, the students for taking on the task, and the community for weighing in. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So made.
Okay, I'm going to give that to Kim. Is there any discussion?
There is a hand up.
Online. Jody.
Is it,
Jody, no, we don't.
is any board members first? No board members? Okay, Jody?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I do appreciate Dan's comments, and I know this is very difficult for a lot of people who've been to Brattleboro High School. I graduated a few years earlier than he did, like 1959, from Brattleboro Union High School. And quite frankly, I never gave the colonels or the mascot. I was before the mascot of the Southern Gentlemen. I never gave them much never mind. And I doubt if many of the people who went through the school ever really thought about it. I am glad that this is coming about for a change now that I have been educated. And I thank Lana a lot for what's happened. And I really appreciated Eva Gould's comments. I had seen the 3 top candidates, and I was kind of saying, all right, which one would I pick? Until I read her comments about a bear being fiercely protective, et cetera, et cetera. I think this relates, all of those comments concerning the bear relate very much to what we want our high school to represent. You know, we're protective, we walk on the campus, we have powerful instincts, high intelligence, and so forth. And I just wanted to thank Eva or her group for picking the bear and for these reasons. So I think that committee needs to get a great round of applause. And I think that going on with a new mascot as well as a new name, Go Bears. I think this will be wonderful. And thank you all. And thank you, Dan, for your comments also.
Okay, anyone else? Okay. Lana?
I too wanted to thank Dan. I don't want to butcher the pronunciation of your last name, so I'm not going to try. I want to thank you for your presentation and for your comments. And I want to assure you that we took so much of what you have said into account. And there were so many larger conversations, and the decision to change the mascot is not without thought or merit. That being said, thank you so much for your presentation and taking the time to come today.
Any other comments or questions?
I just want to add a comment. I appreciate what Dan said as well, and I think it's important to remember that we're not removing the colonels from history, and people that graduated as a colonel can remember that they did so. But it's just about moving forward in a positive way and uniting our community. So I just hope that that's what comes out of this.
Well, if there's no further comment, all those in favor of adopting the resolution and the rebranding of the Bears, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. We are now rebranded.
Now go home and study pure finance.
Thank you, Eva.
So now we are back to public comment on non-agenda items, 10 minutes. Anyone making a comment can expect a response that falls into one of the following categories: receive an acknowledgement of the comment with no further action planned, receive an immediate response by the board chair or administration. Administration would be directed to contact and respond to the person. Clarification sought from the administration for a specified meeting. The topic would be added to a specified future board agenda. The matter would be referred to an executive session. A public hearing would be held on the matter. Do we have anyone who would like to speak to public comment on non-agenda items? Jody.
There I go. I got it unmuted. I just wanted to say, as I've said before at other meetings, since you've had the students representatives, that thank goodness it's been a long time coming. It should have happened years ago. It didn't. And I think the students have done a great job being part of this board. And we need to listen to the students as much as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Anyone else for public comment on agenda items? Okay, I'm gonna.
So I have a non-agenda item?
Well, let me just ask one more time, public comment, non-agenda items, members of the public. Okay, Deborah?
At what point do we clarify what our summer schedule is going to be like?
I thought
is it
we
somewhere
would
else?
do that when we talk about letter I.
Letter I. Oh, great. There it is. Thank you. We got it. We got it, Kelly. Don't even bother. Thank you.
Liz Adams, wonderful to see you.
I don't think you can see me because my internet's so bad. But I wanted to thank all the staff and administrators and Mark for all the hard work that they've done this school year. All the presentations that you've given, which helped me when I was a board member and continue to help me as I'm a member of the public as to what is going on in our schools and how systems work. And I'd also like to thank my fellow board members, those I've worked with and those I haven't, who stepped up. I know how hard the board works, and I don't think the public realizes how much time and effort goes into being on this board, but it's not just what you see on BCTV. So thank you, everybody, for all your work.
Thank you, Liz. Lord Chapman?
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to thank Lana for her service and all of you, of course, too, and the teachers and staff and everybody else, but especially Lana, since she will be stepping down. And I think it's a huge loss and want to recognize that.
You got ahead of us on the agenda, so, but thank you very much. We all, well, I'll speak for myself and certainly other people will likely chime in. I really appreciate Lana's, sometimes her quiet observation and then the comments that she's made and the contributions have been very helpful and helped move the board forward many times. So, and I'm going to stop before I start to fry. So, if we have nothing else in public comment on non-agenda items, we are moving on to unfinished business, sexual abuse investigation update. I have reached out to our attorney who is checking in with Amy Goddard, and hopefully we will have at least some sort of update for the next meeting, which is, I believe, on the 27th. So that's really where I can't promise it, but that's the goal, to have at least something to share for that meeting. Are there any questions on this? Okay. Okay, then we will move on to, we've already done the branding. Okay, and we will move on to board matters training, leadership council updates. Are there any updates from leadership councils? Questions, comments, thoughts?
So I just want to jump into this because there have been some questions that have been asked coming from leadership councils about the term of office and when it ends, when the new people come on board. And I know, Mark, you're privy to that as well. I don't know if you want to address that.
Yeah, so essentially, people will maintain their roles as long as they want to maintain their roles as members of their current leadership councils. To keep that continuity in place, as we begin the new school year, like we did this year, we'll have a period of time, the month of September, for folks to express an interest in joining the leadership council, or maybe other folks deciding to step down from the leadership council. The goal would be to conduct an orientation like was done this year by mid-October. So then we would officially be up and running with the new term in place.
And can I just add to that? My understanding is in committee, we talked about making the transition in October, which would give new families, caregivers, a chance to settle into their new schools and perhaps be part of a leadership council for a given school year, rather than being left out of the process altogether. So that was the discussion about October. Leadership councils, to stay on this for a moment, have not come up for I think it would be a second reading. So it's not coming up yet. We are still in committee with this. but there are a couple of issues that have come up that I just want to address in this public meeting. And one having to do with some consternation about recording Leadership Council meetings, whether they have to be recorded audio and visual. And we have rocked back and forth with the Secretary of State's office, getting different views. So the decision out of that office is that if it is a hybrid meeting, such as this one, you do not need to do an audio-visual recording, as long as there is a physical location that the public can access. If by chance it is a remote-only meeting, then it does have to be recorded, audio, visual, and posted. So that's the take on that, and I just want to put that out there to allay a lot of concerns about whether these meetings have to be recorded or not. I guess that's all I will add at this point.
I should pass on, BUHS Leadership Council would love to start their Leadership Council in September. I don't know if that's possible, but that's why they're asking if the term of office for current chairs and members goes from September to September, and then they hand off to a new team or not. So we have to sort that out. But the high school wants to start the year right off the bat in September.
Yeah, we think leadership councils will definitely meet in September with the given structure that is in place, and then October would be the opportunity to reflect. Maybe somebody else wants to take on responsibility of chair. That's how.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so it keeps the continuity going, and then in October, opportunity to change up some roles potentially.
They'll be happy to hear that.
So can I ask a clarifying question? Does that mean that like all the students that are representatives on that go through October and then it switches over? Because I think that's the part that they were talking about last night, like the student engagement piece.
The thing is, like leadership council meetings, anybody can attend these meetings, and we encourage folks to attend.
Okay.
No official roles of who's on the committee or who's the chair or who's the recorder. That would all happen in October after we've had 4 to 6 weeks to get the school year rolling.
Okay, so they could start coming and participating
Absolutely.
as much as they want, and then those things go into place.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
I'd like to refer back to Mark's admin report, which has kind of feedback or a comment from the leadership councils. I still feel like there's a repetitive theme of leadership councils not understanding how their questions will get answered, or they'll hear feedback. So I just want to acknowledge that again, and not lose sight of maybe needing some work on refining how that process, how that circle has closed a little bit. I also think that, I know this came up in Putney, and I think I've seen it over the last few months, but in Putney it pretty regularly, I think, has come up an affirmation that a desire to have board meetings rotate again, which hasn't happened since before COVID, and I think there might have been some technical glitches at some point along the way. But I think it'd be really good for us as a board to consider overcoming those glitches. It seems like it's something that is desired. And then the last question, actually, and Sean, maybe I think that you're the Guilford person. There was I had a question about something that came up around the VTCA, however we say the new SBACs.
VTCAP.
The VTCAP. There was some request for board advocacy around the VTCAP, and I didn't understand what the I didn't understand the essence of that conversation and what was being requested of the board. Do you remember at all that?
I do very well. I think the question about it had not been solidified totally, So I think it was, the basic idea was that we should have the discussion, but not right now, because they were still in the process of the VCAP, BTCAP, and so Paul's name came up. So, yeah, so I think it's a much bigger conversation that will transpire. But I think it was the feeling of the leadership council and the admin at Guilford that this was probably not the time to do it.
Was it a concern about the process? I guess what was the issue?
Well, I think that's what they didn't want to discuss.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Because I offered to bring it to the full board level, and they said, yes, it should happen at some point, but let's finish what we started.
I just want to publicly say, and I know I sent this to Deborah, we are an organization that accepts federal funds, and we must be ADA compliant because we do that. And the ADA says that if we are going to record sessions and post them, we need to offer subtitles. And so I just want people to be really aware of that. Part of the reason it's so great to have BCTV is that they are equipped to do that. But if we start recording meetings and posting them, we do need to make sure that we also have them subtitled.
Okay, thank you, that's a good reminder.
We have that on our radar screen. I'm just gonna say that.
I just think it's important that it's in the meeting, should one of us be hit by a bus tomorrow.
It's always a good reminder.
Yeah.
Yep. Anything else on leadership council update? And then we are moving on to board subcommittees, mission statements. Any that we're bringing them to the board?
There was the Programmatic and Performance Equity Committee has proposed an updated mission statement that I am pulling up. And that would, our proposed new mission statement is to provide a space for community engagement around equity and performance and develop recommendations with administration and staff to increase equity and performance through the district. Through the district.
Okay, so do we need to approve that?
We didn't approve the other ones, I don't think.
Okay. All right, so then just, it sounds like this is an informative.
Okay, so they don't need to be approved.
We can probably approve it at
our
next meeting.
Wonderful,
Okay.
all right, thank you.
We could approve it when?
At our next committee meeting.
I had been under the understanding that this board was approving any mission changes, but if that's not the case, then we can do it in committee.
This board can do whichever it wants. I was only telling Kelly we hadn't done that before.
Got it.
Okay, if the board would like to take the extra step to officially approve them, we can certainly do that. If that's the case, then if someone would like to make a motion to approve the PPEC's proposed updated mission statement.
So I'd like to just, before making a motion, I would like to say that I think because we are all subcommittees of the board, I would think that the board needs to approve a mission statement so that we're all invested in it. It's not just, let's say, a committee of 2 board members who makes those decisions, I would think.
Okay.
I'm happy to make that motion.
Okay.
To accept that proposed new mission as stated.
Okay, so a motion has been made to approve the proposed PPEC updated mission statement. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed or abstentions? You're opposed?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I just like to make a comment. I think,
So,
I thought the voting was done.
Oh, okay, so Sean's not opposing it, so we are checking that off, because that's done. Sean?
Yes, I can hear Wendy's voice saying, would you please send me your motion so that I can include it in the minutes? And I know that she's going to be doing her minutes from the recording. So I think if any motions that are made, if Wendy got them by email, it'd be much appreciated.
It's actually a link underneath the agenda. It's a linked item on the website.
Okay. And I'll take this opportunity to ask Mark if perhaps this statement that was read by the student could be emailed as well, so that could be for.
Oh, for Wendy?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other subcommittees with mission statements they would like to present to the board? Or okay, so then I guess we will move on. Yes.
Sorry to go back to the recording issue of LCs. Just for clarification, I think it's important to clarify this. Even though hybrid meetings and the recordings are not required to be posted, they will continue to be, we will continue regular board meetings as Zoom meetings, and they will be recorded and posted, correct?
That I
That's our
would
prerogative.
anticipate that would continue to happen until we're told that we can't.
Yeah,
I would
nothing
think
is
so.
gonna change with the way the board meets hybridly over Zoom and posting the recordings. Okay, that was just a question that somebody had.
Okay, all right, so now we are moving on to hires, resignations, retirements. Mark?
Okay, so we have one resignation, Christy Jackson, current BAMS English teacher. Somebody going to the new hires, or do we want to vote?
I'm sorry, Christy Jackson?
Yes, BAMS English.
Do you want to put a little asterisk on that? Because she's also being recommended for the other position.
Yeah, we'll do new hires.
Okay. Makes it sound like she's leaving us.
Okay. And that's a resignation, so, is that the only resignation?
Yes.
I move we accept it with regret. Thank you, Kim. All those in favor of accepting with regret the resignation as described by Mark, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, we got a bunch of new hires. Alexandra Joyle, Academy School art teacher. It's a one-year position. Chelsea Wheel, Oak Grove School academic support teacher. Christy Jackson, BAMS librarian. Jada Henry, BOHS, 50% PE, 50% health teacher. Rebecca Kraus, BOHS school nurse. Madeline Conley, Green Street art teacher. Melissa Kavanaugh, Oak Grove pre-K teacher. Maureen Ward, Putney academic support teacher. Rachel Lebushkin, WRCC English teacher. Katrina Mazer, BAMS tech design teacher, 1 year. Emily Walsh, PCS Putney grade 1 teacher, 1 year. And I will add the Putney academic support teacher position. Maureen Ward is also a 1 year. That's it.
So is there a motion to approve the new hires as Mark has listed them?
So moved.
Thank you, Kim. All those in favor of approving the new hires, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. And are there any retirements?
Nope.
Okay, well, there may not be any retirements from school, but we would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge that Lana is stepping down from the board as of the 16th of June. We would like to appreciate Lana's time here on the board and her contributions. I will leave it to other board members to also make their comments. I will say that I have reached out to the Brattleboro Select Board Chair to try to arrange a consultation from the Select Board. And with the conflicting dates of our meetings and their meetings, and then with the holiday coming up, I know we are supposed to have a 30-day deadline, but it looks like we may not be able to meet with them until the 25th of July. I think that is our regular board meeting day if we were going to have a board meeting at the end of July, second board meeting. So
July 25th.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not, I mean,
Yes.
in a perfect world, we would be able to count the calendar days and say, here's 30 day, we'll have this done by then. But it seems like it's not gonna be possible, so just to give you an update that looks like that may be the date that we coordinate with the select board and then have to move forward with the next steps in the process. So that's the update on that. Would anyone else like to speak to Lana's?
I would just like to thank Lana for all that she brought to this board in her time. And it's just meant a lot to the community, a lot to the school, and a lot to the fellow board members, so thank you.
Eva has a hand up.
Eva?
I just wanted to say thank you to Lana for everything she's done. I think that she's been so important and she's going to be really missed. It's a huge loss. And I've just been in awe of her courage and her ability to just get through and just say what she means. And I'm just going to miss you, really. So I'm just really grateful to know you, and I know you're not leaving. I know you're going to still be in the community, and I think that this is just one step, and I think there's going to be other things that you do that are really great and fantastic, and I'm excited to see what you do in the future.
Thank you, Eva.
I'd like to say that, and I've said this to Lana by email, I've just really appreciated her strong voice, and that much of what she said, both when I was a community member and sitting in this board seat, resonated with me very powerfully, and that speaks a lot to me. And so thank you so much, Lana, for your service.
Yes, and Lana, thank you for the voice for the board, but also your voice for our students and your advocacy for for all the students in the district, and all of your hard work. It's not unseen and not unappreciated. So thank you.
Thank you, Lana.
Thank you, Lana.
So Lana,
Sorry. Can I say something?
Go ahead. Go for it.
So Lana is my advisor as a student representative, and she always felt very comforting and very open, and I don't know, I want to be like Lana when I grow up. I really look up to you, Lana, and I know like you have a lot on your plate, and I just wish the best for you. So.
Nice.
So Lana, I will miss your presence at board meetings and in executive session, where much of the heavy lifting occurs. This board is better because of your grounded convictions. This board is better because of your integrity. I will miss you, but I will not miss our friendship. We have that. Check out your calendar, girlfriend. I will see you soon. So
if I may, I'd like to say, I just thank you all so much. I moved to this community 2 decades ago, and I knew from the moment that I set foot here that I loved it. And I have worked since I came to become an active member of this community and to lend my hand wherever I can. And I am so honored to have worked with this group of individuals, and I'm so honored to have served my community. We have fantastic schools, amazing students, our administrators and our teachers and our faculty and everyone who works in our school systems and advocates for us, all of our families. I'm so proud to have been a small part of this fantastic community. And please know that I'm not going anywhere. I will be right here. And I hope that you all consider me a friend. You'll reach out to me. You will ask me when you need me to advocate for you. And Kaya, I want to be like you when I grow up. Thank you all so much.
So Kelly has given me the honor of presenting a certificate to you from the entire board, the Windham Southeast School District Board of School Directors, in recognition and appreciation of your service and dedication to the students and families of Windham Southeast School District. Lona Deborah, thank you. So, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Lana.
Thank you, Lana.
Okay. Moving to the staff admin appreciation, I want to thank you very much, Bryn, for it's nice to hear that our appreciation was hopefully that it was that what we really wanted to come across, hopefully that really did come across, that we do appreciate. And I want to take the opportunity to thank everyone who helped in coordinating, and in particular people who delivered. I want to recognize Ruby and Robin, who is not here this evening, and Tim and Anne. They took the extra time and effort and to get these delivered, and made sure that that different people who maybe I wouldn't have thought about, some other people wouldn't have thought about, and kind of chimed in to, let's not forget about the people in this location and that location. So we appreciate hearing that that you've got them in. So
thank you.
So we move on to student representative applications. And I will ask if there is a motion to approve the 2 students who were discussed in executive session as recommendations for next year.
So moved.
Thank you, Anne. Is there any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the recommendation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. Going past that, and to the Darrow's.
If I can make another motion for the board to approve the letter to be signed by Deborah and myself on behalf of the board, asking the 2 nominees to accept the nomination.
Thank you, Tim. I forgot that one. So, Tim, a motion has been made. Tim, I'm sorry. Can you restate the motion?
Motion to accept the letter of nomination to the students signed by Deborah Stanford and myself on behalf of the board.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay.
And one last motion. That the board approved Deborah Stanford and myself to serve as advisors to the 2 new student reps.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of Tim Maceo and Deborah Stanford as representing the board on the
to serve as
advisors to the student representatives. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. So then we move along to the Darrow Scholarship, and I will turn it over to Anne and Ruby.
Thank you. I would like to move that this board approve our recommendation for the recipient of the Darrow Scholarship from Putney.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving the recommendation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, wonderful. Now we move along.
No, the school board one.
Okay, yes, thank you very much, Kim. So all those in favor of approving the named recipient of the School Director's Award, please. Is there a motion to approve the recipient of the School Director's Award?
So moved.
Thank you very much, Kim. Although, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Kim, for bringing me back to that. Now we are to the Policy and Amendment Committee for first readings.
So the Policy and Amendment Committee is presenting for first reading three policies. The first one is F42, Student Dress Code. This is coming up for first reading, and the introductory paragraph, which I've been asked to read aloud, is rather long. So I'm going to go to some concluding remarks in that paragraph. We want to encourage and support our children to be whole people, well-rounded, not defined by their bodies and their clothes. Our goal is to create a learning environment that gives us space for self-expression, grounding us in our equality and worth. We recognize that we are constantly inundated with messages from others and from the media that work to convince us to participate in our own oppression or the oppression of others. We will work as a community to create space for expression, but one that challenges us to deepen our sense of self-worth and care of each other. The student dress code policy will be reviewed annually at the end of each school year. And I think that review at the end of each school year is really going to be essential to this policy. The policy is 4 pages long. It is a policy that is being presented as applicable for pre-K through 12th grade. So as you take a look at it, please view it in that context, and it will make for great reading and lots of comments, I'm sure. The second policy for first reading is H8, and it's entitled Access Control and Visitor Management. It is the policy of Wyndham Southeast School District to provide a safe environment for students and employees while facilitating access to school buildings, premises, and equipment by authorized users, the safety and security of the district's physical space and assets is a shared responsibility of all members of the district. This is a required mandatory policy. It is a new policy. And the third policy for a first reading is E17, Fire and Emergency Preparedness Drills. It is the policy of Wyndham Southeast School District to require each school site to conduct options-based response drills in the fall and the spring of each academic year, and to adopt and maintain an all-hazards emergency operations plan as part of the district's overall school safety plan. Again, another mandatory required policy, and these are all coming out of the legislature, and it is, I have it down as S138, and it's going to be a series of policies coming out of this legislation. So these are the first two that have come out of it. So those are the three policies. Please, again, email any of us who are on this committee, Tim Maciel, myself, Deborah Stanford, Ann Beekman, Eva Nolan. Let us know what you think. We are in a 10-day reading period for these three policies. Thank you.
Any comment, question, thoughts on that, or? Okay, well, please reach out to the Policy and Amendment Committee. Board norms, I'm going to make a motion to amend, postpone that until the next board meeting, in part due to Robin not being here. She was very integral in drafting this, and also it feels like maybe we might benefit from doing the orientation retreat, and then maybe we can keep these in mind and then come back to the next board meeting, and seems like a better use of our time. So I have made the motion. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of postponing this until the next board meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, it is postponed. Thank you very much. We have one quick thing, and then we are jumping into our last executive session. Personnel Committee and Finance Committee. In the past, the board has, last year we were doing a lot of hiring, and so we had authorized the Personnel Committee to address the hiring and those type of items during the summer, when, especially if the board wasn't going to be meeting or if we weren't meeting as soon as was necessary. There is also, okay, so the question is, well, if someone would like to make a motion to authorize the Personnel Committee to represent the board during the summer months when the board's not in session.
So moved.
Thank you, Lana. Is there any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor of authorizing the Personnel Committee, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, so Personnel Committee is authorized. I'm not sure, there was a question of whether the Finance Committee would, if there was something that they could take over, or if it was necessary.
I think it should be, probably, just to make sure that, the nimbleness is very important, especially with capital plan projects. So I think it's pretty important to have that option, so that things can proceed, seamlessly without, we don't lose time.
So what motion would you be willing to make a motion to address that?
Yeah, the Finance Committee of the WSESD is authorized to authorize expenditures.
To represent the board.
Represent the board during the summer months.
With regards to finance. Okay. So Sean has made the motion. It's the board's motion. Is there any discussion?
You just got it.
I see no discussion. All those in favor of authorizing the Finance Committee to address finance-related matters during the summer months on behalf of the board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, wonderful. We are now at the last point. We are after making a specific finding that.
Wait 1 second, can I? So before we go into executive session, can we also talk about the summer schedule for the board?
Sure, thank you for bringing that back. So in last year, we took off the first couple weeks because of July, because a lot of the admin were out on vacation, after the school year had ended, etc. So the question is what the board would like to do as far as that. Would we like to have our second meeting in June and then hold off on another meeting until the 25th of July? Thoughts on that? Would there be any objection to doing it that way?
I don't see any pressing issues for a meeting in the first part of July.
Okay.
I don't have any enormous objections. I think we have a lot of work to do, and I am consistently concerned with how much is in our schedule every other week. And so pausing does, it causes me a little concern that we're gonna be backed up. That being said, I'm all for the administration not being present for that, 2 meetings in July. That seems like a good time to not require that of our administrators. And if that means we don't meet, then I think we don't meet. I do think that there's work that this board could do that is very specific to, that doesn't require an administrator to be in the room. I think there's just systems work that we could be doing. We are going to be having a retreat. Whether that will tick the boxes, maybe, but.
So maybe we can certainly hold off until the next meeting, which will be just after the retreat. Mm-hmm. And we can certainly make that determination at that point. Okay. So then I will ask for a finding that premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or person involved at a substantial disadvantage, with a separate motion to be made to include an executive session under 1 VSA 313A 1D grievances other than tax grievances. There are three reasons. 3 reasonings. 1 VSA 313A 1A contracts, 1 VSA 313A 1B labor relations agreements with employees. This is in regards to a grievance matter and its follow-up questions. So is there a motion to find the premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or person involved at a substantial disadvantage?
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor of that finding, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. So now I will ask for a motion to go into executive session under 1 VSA 313A 1D grievances other than tax grievances, 1 VSA 313A 1A contracts, 1 VSA 313A 1B labor relations agreements with employees, inviting in attorney Pietro Lynn and for a brief point, and then following that inviting in Mark and Frank Rucker to participate in the executive session.
So moved.
Thank you, Lana. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of going into executive session as indicated, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstention? Okay, we are going into executive session at 8:31 and there is going to be no action taken.